Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, with more Pillar Loves Tabletop games. Today with Three Kingdoms Redo, released in 2014, is a game where you will play as one of three factions, Wei, Wu, and Shu, in an effort to have the most victory points at the end. To do that, you're going to need to go for border territories, deal with tribal relations, and control the Han Emperor long enough to reach a high enough rank. And possibly even use state enhancements like separation and unification cards for long-term goals or short-term benefits for resources. But both of them are worth points. And ultimately developing your region, nation, kingdom economically and having it, prosperous. So at the start of the game, each player will take one of the three factions. They will take their respective lord card and the token that goes with them. These tokens are your effective workers of a worker placement type of game, but they also have stats. The top number, 5, is an administration ability for administrative places, and whichever one is administrative this time. The middle number is for combat, for the combat locations, whichever one is combat this time, dealing with battles. And then the bottom number is how many trained armies they can have under their control. We will get into armies and trained armies in a minute. You'll also start with a deck of cards representing potential generals you can end up with. You'll draw a number of them and then keep a number of them. If you're playing this way, you will keep 4 of them. We will keep 3. Shu will keep 2. And you will get their respective tokens. Every general will have their stats and their abilities. Make use of which ones you can combine together for maximum effect. You will also start with rice and gold, your primary currencies for getting things in this game. Wei will only start with 3 of each. We will start with 4 of each, and Shu will start with 5 of each. You will start with tribal relations. Wei starts at 5. Wu starts at 6. Shu starts at 7. Do not let your tribal relations deteriorate. But if you can work to improve them, they're worth points. And at a high enough level, you can use rice to gain popular support tokens. You will start with a number of cards based on your faction. Everyone will start with 3 unification cards. Good way to get resources and points. And you'll have a number of separation cards based on which faction. Wei starts with 1, Wu starts with 2, Shu starts with 3. You want to play them early. You want to play them before you've accomplished the restricting factor. And then you need to start working on the objective. For example, iron armor. If you have not stationed any infantry units, you can play it. You need to spend a spear. You may train one untrained army immediately at the end of the game. You earn 2 BPs if you have stationed the most number of infantry units, or 1 if you've tied. Okay. We'll go over stationing units later on. And finally, you may start with a number of popular support tokens. They add to your values when placing your generals. Wu starts with one popular support, Shu starts with two. Okay. Shu will also start with the alliance token, which we'll go over with this. Okay. So first we have the conflict phase of the round. If it is the 3rd, 5th, or 9th, sorry, the track's kind of out of sight though. Turn or the round, you will draw a number of cards from your general's deck and keep a number of them, either 1 or 2, depending on which faction you're playing. Over the course of the game, each faction will have recruited a grand total of 7 generals by the end of it. So Shu will have a chance to get more generals as they go. Each time generals get recruited. But eventually, by the end of the game, each player will have their lord and 7 generals. If the game goes long enough. And then, regardless of whether there's general recruitment or not, the player at the bottom of the bid takes the alliance token and places it anywhere that is not win popular support or control Han Emperor. It's worth discussing with the other person in your alliance. So for this alliance, we have Shu and Wu. Let's say we both want to focus on getting our farms going. So we agree to make that our alliance space. Wu and Shu can now place here and potentially win together and do this action. As long as the Wei player does not overbid them for that space. In subsequent rounds, the alliance token cannot remain in its space. It has to move somewhere else. And then we bid for action spaces, starting with player number 1. So this is out of sight, unfortunately. We have at the top Wei, and then Wu, and then Shu. This order may change from round to round depending on how many successful actions they pull off. Alright. So Wei will place their first general. They can place anywhere. They can also place to improve travel relations if they have gold or trained armies. They can also place in battle with or without armies, but in order to station armies, they must bring trained armies to do so. And there must be a space that matches the item type, the weapon type, for those armies to station. If they don't station, then they'll return home. It will go around until everyone has placed all their available generals. Once everyone's placed, we start removing tokens. So what will happen is for spaces where there is multiple tokens, we will compare the relevant values. We have the Wei General with 5 versus the Wu General with a 3. Oh wait, no. The Wei with a 3 because of the combat, versus the Wu General with a 4. So the Wei General will be removed. There are things that can be done as you place your tokens to increase your values. You may have general skill tokens. They might be a +1 or a +2. For example, for the Lord of Wu. If they are the first general assigned, they get a +1 bonus. There are popular support tokens. They are worth +1 per token placed with that general. And finally, there's the Han Emperor, who also provides a +1. The Han Emperor is taken control of with this space and resolved at the end of the round. But the lower number will be removed. Any bonus tokens will be set back to where they were, so this will go back to the player space for Wu. Popular support tokens will be discarded. The Han Emperor will return to the supply, although it should be held onto by the player who placed it until the maintenance phase when it actually switches control, because of reasons I'll explain later. But once everyone's been removed, we will update the action and bid track. So what will happen is the current turn order will be preserved on the left as the action step. The new turn order for the next round will be altered based on who has more successful actions going for them. Let's say Wu managed to have all 4 of their generals successfully take actions. Wei only managed to get 3, and Shu only got 2. So Wu would now be at the top, followed by Wei, followed by Shu. And Wei and Shu would now form an alliance on the following turn. If there's ties, then it comes down to who got there first. So as long as we played our general first of 5, they would have to bring a 5, 6 to beat that. There is a rare prevails in cases of ties of totals during building. That is the Lord of Wei. If you're wondering why I'm not saying the names, it's because I don't want to fuck up the pronunciation and get roasted later. But starting with the player at the top of the turn order on the action side, they can resolve their actions in any order. There's recruit armies. You get 2 untrained armies. They have no weapons, therefore they are not trained. To train armies, you go here. In order to flip them over, you need to have an appropriate weapon. You can get weapons from producing crossbows and vessels, producing spears and horses, or trading rice and or weapons. A spear makes infantry. A horse makes cavalry. Crossbow makes archery. And vessel makes naval. You'll notice in the borders that there's one of the spears and either 2 archery, 2 naval, or 2 cavalry. But anyway, recruit armies, then train them by acquiring weapons and then training them. You can demand tribute to get 2 gold and or rice, any combination of 2 tokens from those types, or an untrained army. Producing weapons, 2 crossbows and or vessels, 2 spears and or horses. Developing marketplaces and developing farms. So when you go to develop, what you'll do is you'll take a token of that type and flip it over. These are the farms. These are the marketplaces. They don't do anything yet. To do that, you collect tax for your marketplaces or harvest your farms. You want to try to flip as many of these over as possible before you go for the harvest or the tax collection. When you do that, you'll take the unflipped and move as many of them up there as you want, or you can leave them down and then they will get sacrificed. Farms will be traded in for 5 rice, and they're removed from the game. Marketplaces will be traded for 4 gold. If you need the immediate resources, that's understandable, but one of the things you're trying to do in this game is develop your farms and your marketplaces and then push them up here because they will reduce the cost of your stationed armies for keeping them there. And they are a victory points consideration. Okay. Trading rice and or weapons for gold. With gold. So you can trade 4 rice for 5 gold or 3 gold for 4 rice. And or trade any 3 weapons for 7 gold, or any 5 gold or 5 gold for any 3 weapons. You are limited to the rice trade 3 times and the weapons trade twice. You can only do one or the other for each type. So you can either trade the rice for gold or the gold for rice. And weapons for gold or gold for weapons. Construct state enhancement. So each enhancement will have a cost. Again, iron armor costs 1 spear. And a requirement that you have not stationed any infantry units. You pay the cost, you play it face up, it is now available to you. And finally, and not quite finally, there's a hire instructor and or import technology. You spend a rice to turn up to 2 of your untrained armies into trained armies. Again, you must have the weapons. And or draw a new card from your separation or unification. Again, if you're hurting for resources, you might take a chance on the unification. If it's early enough, you might want to focus on separation and trying to get this set up towards getting extra points. Now for the central 2, the ones that the Alliance cannot be used on. These will flip each turn for what's required. So, win popular support. You take a popular support token. You now have access to it if you need to bid on something in the future and have the advantage. Popular support requires rice to maintain. Try not to be short on rice when you need to do so. Control the Han Emperor. You pay 1 gold. You move 1 step up on the rank. You start out at Governor. You go to Grand General, then Prime Minister, then Duke, then King, then Emperor. So when it's Emperor, the game is over. However, the general that you assigned to control the Han Emperor remains occupied. They are stuck there for 1 round. To halfway make up for it, you now have the Han Emperor token to assist in bidding. Whoever started the last round of the game and controlled the Han Emperor will have a 2-point bonus at the end. So think ahead on when the game might end. And then second to last turn, take the Emperor. So those are the spaces in there. Tribal relations. If you set your general with either 1 to 2 gold or 1 to 2 trained armies, you will move up on the tribal relations chart. Where at the end of the game, where your token is, you'll get those points. If you did not improve tribal relations, they will degrade by a step. If they are at 1 and you did not do anything about it, you will get a deficit token. It is minus 3 points. Don't let it happen. On a turn that you improve or maintain tribal relations at 12, you may spend 2 rice and get 1 popular support token. They really love you and they're prepared to support you as long as you bring the rice. And finally, battle locations. Only the 2 neighboring players may fight at a battle location. You will compare your combat value of your generals plus the number of trained armies you have. And the higher number kicks out the lower. Now, what you have left are generals with their armies. If there is a space that matching the trained army's weapon, you can station them there. Let's say, for example, we have the Lord of Wei leading 2 trained armies. Well, let's say I only have 1 token out for it, but let's say there are 2 of these trained armies with spears, infantry. We can now permanently station that army here, and that general. That general will no longer be allowed to be placed as an action, to bid for an action. And we'll get this token, which will go to improve our rice requirements or gold requirements for stationed armies. An important thing to remember is pay attention to your general specialties. So I sent infantry, half sphere, that matches, so it will be flipped up to a +1 victory point. Now, it's entirely possible to have the general not match the army that they're going with, at which point it will be a 0-point token. What is not up for debate is stationing the matching army. Your army must match where they're stationed. Your general does not have to match the army they're going to be stationed with in terms of their specialties to weapons, but matching is how you get the bonus point. And every round, your stationed armies will get you points. Now, an important thing to remember is wherever you station your first army, your second stationed army has to be the other battlefield. You cannot just focus on one. Anyway. So reset that for a minute. But once all those actions have been taken care of, we go to once all those have been taken care of and we've reduced or maintained the tribal relations, any benefits. You may have a general that says at the end of the round, get this. Or you may have a card that says at the end of the round, get this. This is when you do it. This is also when we're checking for the end of the game. The game ends on the 12th round. Any player reaches level 5 for both farm and marketplace. So here's the thing about these tokens. They might help you with the costs, but they don't count towards the marketplace or farm levels. You have to have actually developed the tokens. They don't necessarily have to be up here. They just have to be flipped over. Anyway, promotion Emperor. You've controlled the Han Emperor enough times. You are now the Emperor. And alternatively, you've stationed your 5th general at a border location. Alright. But those will end the game. If the game has not ended, though, then we go to update maintenance. The criterion markers flip. So for the first round of the game, win popular support required administration, and control the Han Emperor required combat. For the next round of the game, winning the popular support will require combat, and control the Han Emperor will require administration. Okay. Pass the Han Emperor token. The game has not ended, then the Han Emperor token will go to the person who actually won it. Or will go out of play until someone does. The general that occupied the space from the previous round will return. So it can be used for the next round. Popular support tokens and station armies. Every 2 popular support tokens will require 1 rice. Every stationed army you have requires 1 gold and 1 rice. 1 gold, 1 rice. Every token up here reduces the rice cost by 1, reduces the gold cost by 1, and wherever you place those. So you'll have your starting rice and gold. Try to keep it up through demands, trade, whatever it takes, or harvest or tax collection. Because for every 1 resource that you are short, it's a deficit token. A deficit token is minus 3 points. There are only 5 deficit tokens in the game. If for some reason you need more deficit tokens, what you could probably end up doing is use your tribal relations counter. If for some reason you need more than 12 deficit tokens, what the hell is going on? Seriously. Anyway. Awarded military victory points for station armies. So every army of yours gets you a military VP. You want to be far ahead on this track for the end of the game. And then we update the round track. We go up to round 2. Yeah. So, when the game is over, we go to scoring. And here's how scoring works. There will be an individual first, an individual second, and an individual third. If there's a joint first or joint second, there will be points figured out from there as well. So, first off, we have the military track. You're this high up. Let's say we went into at 16, Way is at 13, Shoes at 7. Okay. Borders. Win, tie, or lose the border. So it's based on the number of locations. So let's say Shu controls 2 and Wu controls 1. Then Shu wins this one and Wu loses it. But if Wu had 2, then they would tie and they would count that border as tied. So either you win both of your borders, which gets you 5. You win a border and tie another border for 3. You win a border and lose a border, or tie both of your borders for 2. You tie a border and lose the other border for 1. Or you lose both your borders for 0. And then border location tokens. Every one of these you have that's face up is worth a victory point. Domestic development. You count up your flipped up farm and marketplace tokens, regardless of whether they're in the treasury or granary or not. The highest number, if they do it if they're individual first, it's 5. If they're tied with someone else, it's 3. If they're second by themselves, it's 2. If they're tied for second with another person, it's 1. And if they're third, then it's 0. It'll be the same points thing for civil harmony. The player with the highest level will be first. You'll also get the bonus points if you're high enough. It'll be the same thing for rank. If you have the highest rank by yourself, you'll be individual first. In addition, you'll get the bonus points. Whoever started the round with the Han Emperor token gets 2 points. Any enhancement cards you have are worth points. And then any deficit cards are -3. And then we'll be moved along this track just to keep track of things. The player with the highest VP is the winner. In case of a tie, highest gold plus rice tokens you still have will break it. And then, if there's still a tie, Shu breaks the first tie for victory. If Shu is not tied for victory, then Wu wins it. Yep. And that's pretty much the game. Gather your generals, place them, get your stuff, decide how to use it, and just try to play the long game. Go for military rank, go for the borders, keep an eye on your tribal relations, consider your enhancements carefully, and just try to take care of your stationed armies and popular support. Why do I like this game? Okay, so I have never read the book. I've never read The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but I'm curious. No, I fell in love with this game when someone else brought their copy, which happens a lot with a lot of the games I play with this one guy who has great taste in board games. And I thought, this is an interesting game. I will keep it in the back of my mind and eventually get it someday. And I finally got it today. Yay. But this is an interesting take on the worker placement approach of your people have certain values that are better for bidding on some stuff than others. And the whole kind of balancing aspect of you really need to think about dealing with things out here, back here, up here, over there, and all sorts of interesting abilities to make use of. It's a very interesting approach to a game. Um, and it's definitely making more curious about that history of, how it got to this point. That I would definitely want to look up more information and explore that time in China. If there's one thing I would have liked to have for this game, is a sheet of how to pronounce everyone's name. I've been avoiding it precisely because I didn't want to make it a last out of myself trying. The one thing I do remember the guy playing, teaching us the game, uh, pronouncing it Sao Sao. So there's something at least, but that would be nice to have. So something I didn't show yet. The game also comes with player aids for, um, under having the rules and the scoring categories in front of you all the time, so that you can keep an eye on what you need to be doing. Try to play to your the strengths of your nation. Another helpful thing I thought was cool is that on the back of the player aids, tell you about the generals of your opponents. That you can always keep those visible. That's just a nice thing that I think is more games ought to do. Yep. Three Kingdoms redo. It's been 10 years since this version was released. There might still be copies of it floating around. I was pretty happy to find this one. But yeah, find a copy, check it out, play it, engage with history through a board game, and just have fun. Alright, thanks very much for watching. This has been Pillar Nexus. I'll see you next time.